the nature of tragedy is so that when tragedy happens to you,
Yes.
you must cope. And when you want to cope, you cope with trauma. And the thing about trauma is when trauma happens and it becomes your coping mechanism, trauma as at the time of tragedy was very good because it is trauma that kept you alive. It is trauma that minimized the effect of tragedy. But the nature of trauma is it continues to serve you until it no longer serves you.
Wow.
So at some point, you have to say to yourself that, thank you, trauma, for helping me cope as a child, for helping me cope as a young adult. So someone who, for example, had a speech impediment as a child, he stuttered, he stammered, and they were bullying him. To reduce that feeling of unworthiness, he will start to withdraw from the social scene, which is how to cope. Because if he keeps exposing himself to bullying, a time will come it will affect him. So he now starts to withdraw. He now becomes an introvert. But he's not truly an introvert. It is the tragedy of bullying that produced the trauma of introversion. When he becomes an adult, he now starts finding himself withdrawing from people who love him. His wife will say, I don't understand. His children will be like, Daddy doesn't love us. At that point, he has to come to realize that this coping mechanism is now no longer serving me. But this is the challenge with trauma. You can use trauma to build something fantastic. So because of the product of trauma, you believe trauma is good. There are some people who can never be still. They can never rest. The way God created for 6 days and rested on, he said they will create for 30 days stretch. And because they are building something that is great, they've lost the concept of Sabbath. And you can't tell them that that is a trauma response.
So you're saying it's not just hard work. It can be that you are hiding from something or running from something.
The coping mechanisms that we develop are as varied as anything.
So work can be a coping mechanism.
Not all coping mechanisms are vices. Not all coping mechanisms are sins. Not all coping mechanisms will produce in the immediate term disaster. It is in the long term, because that person that keeps walking and walking and walking and walking and walking, the natural progression of life is in your old age, you cannot walk as much.
Yes.
And even if you walk as much, you cannot keep up with the next generation.
Yes.
So what will happen is that person will no longer have as many activities. And then they will not know what to do with themselves. You now start hearing them say, I worked so hard for you people. You people have abandoned me. You people only call your mother. You people don't visit me. And the man is contradicted. He's conflicted because he really worked hard for them.
So that describes people who derive their identity from what they do.
That's one. And people who can't be still with themselves. They don't like themselves.
Because these things you're saying, particularly in ministry space.
Yes, sir.
People can even make their trauma a doctrine. That it looks like hard work. But it can actually be coming from the place of sometimes being that person that everyone around you thought you couldn't do well or succeed. And now you start succeeding. You are responding by showing them what I can do. This is who I am. And we sometimes mask that. What do you see in that?
So I'll use myself as an example.
Yes.
At some point, you have to ask yourself, what point am I trying to prove? And who am I trying to prove it for?
Come again.
At some point, you have to ask yourself, what point am I trying to prove? And who am I trying to prove it for?
These are deep, soulish questions.
So let me say something. You know, when Jesus said in Luke 14 that the Spirit of the Sovereign Lord is upon me, and he now said he has come to preach the gospel to the poor. The next thing he says is that he has come to bind up the brokenhearted. The next thing he says, he has come to preach liberty to the captives or deliverance. It's funny how we jump from preaching the gospel to deliverance. If Jesus said he came to bind up the brokenhearted, there are many people with broken hearts. Broken heart is not breakfast. Broken heart is not relationship heartbreak. A broken heart means your heart, the center, that thing which God said you should guard, for out of it are the issues of life. It is fundamentally flawed. So the soul realm, in my personal opinion, is where the bulk of the challenges exist. After salvation, before deliverance and casting out of devils, bind that broken heart, heal it, you are broken. So yes, the soul realm, how we see ourselves, where we make our decisions from.
You said, why am I doing what I am doing, and why am I trying to prove the point?
Oh yes, that was me. If you can't enjoy a moment without making it public, you are broken.
Come again.
If you can't enjoy a
moment without making it public,
you are broken.